This is Steve Weber. I'm out for my morning walk with my buddy Marius, and we're down by the bluff. It's just beautiful this time in the morning. And what I'm taking a look at over here is this old, what I always thought was a dock along the shore here of the bluff leading to the main area. And because we've seen a lot of old pictures of this area, even back to the 1800s, 1880s, and 90s, I believe, with clipper ships actually docked along this area. And so I've often wondered what this is. Is this the old dock from the old dock road that we know from the bluff? Old dock road used to be called Cordwood Road because they did bring a lot of cordwood from this area and brought it into the city and other areas for burning it before Kings Park actually became Kings Park. Now, I spoke to my friend Dave about this dock area, and he said, maybe I don't attribute this to him 100% because I don't recall the conversation in complete detail, but the general gist of it is that it may not have been a dock in a traditional sense like we think of docks. It may have been a wall, either retaining wall to hold back the bluff. As you know, the walls are very steep and can sometimes things can fall down. It's just plain old erosion. And so maybe it was a retaining wall, or maybe it was both. It was both a retaining wall and an area where boats can go and hook up to. But as you see, it hasn't been functional for decades. And since then, other efforts like to put these rocks here to stop the erosion or somehow impede it and produce what we consider a traditional shoreline here, these efforts have taken place. Beautiful out here. I remember when I was a kid, there were a lot more boats moored here. And then actually there were boats all the way going over to Short Beach over there, all across, because I remember casting from the docks right next to the no casting sign when I was a kid, and there were always boats to work around. And I'd always, cast right next to the boats because there's a good chance of catching eels in the shade underneath the boat, so that was pretty cool too. But the landscape has changed a lot. In fact, as I walk a little closer over here to the old Dock Inn over there, formerly the Beacon, I could see that there used to be a dock over here. You used to be able to buy worms and stuff. I think 50 cents for a box of sandworms. Used to go down into the basement over here. And there's a dock where you can fill up your boat. I think King Peddler took some really great old pictures of the Texaco station that used to be here. And here's where everyone not moors their boats, stores their smaller boats, their dinghies, to get out to their moored boats. And people also sometimes store canoes and other things here. And down in San Remo, where I live and where we've come from, which is in that direction, there is a lot more kayaking and other things. A few years ago, they stopped launching, at least commercial launchings of the kayaks from the docks over here because the currents can be very grip oriented. I remember when we were kids, we used to swim across to what we used to call Gilligan's Island, and that's that body of land right across the river here. And there were camping there, and when we would swim it, we would really have to guide ourselves very closely to the riptide, so you had to work in your favor. So if it was coming in, you had to start at the point all the way out there in the mouth of the delta of the river, and then as you swam, you would swim across and eventually end up like down here, and then have to walk over to the campsites, which were more along down by the point. And some people would take their boats across. A lot of people would. But other times you'd go to Short Beach and land there, which is down River Road in St. James there. And then I remember 4th of July's. We used to have fireworks wars between the two shores. The people who would be out on Gilligan's Island and the people who were on the bluff. And things were a little bit differently because the hospital was open then and people were a little nuttier. And so we had a great time. And this is the old Dock Inn. I really do enjoy this place now. I stop here with my buddy Larry and Karen, my wife Karen, and a few other friends every now and then. And, you know, we just sit there and we talk for hours with Janet and just bullshitting about old times and seeing all of our friends come in. And it really is a good place, and old tradition Kings Park. What is pretty cool about it, we'll walk along the front of it, but what's pretty cool is that this was actually two separate buildings. One building was here, the Beacon, and the other building we're going to take a look at across the street there was Conley's. And what happened is when they did the renovations in the Bluff here, they moved Conley's and put it right next to the Beacon and attached the two buildings together. So now it's still early, and so usually I would have Marius tied up about now, but I don't want to put down my camera. Marius, come here. And so here is the front of the old Dock Inn. And so let's take a look, a little better look. Just gonna step down. Whoa. All right, so this is the old part that was the Beacon. Hey, George. This is the old part that was the Beacon. And then this structure right next to it, you have the one flag. That's the, I believe that was the original building. And then right over here, where the second flag is, I believe that was the structure that was part of Conley's. And you see, looks pretty good. I think it looks awesome. They do a wonderful thing. And that was George over there. He's the owner of it. I didn't want to say too much to him. He looked very busy. Come here, Marius. Come on, let's go. And for those of you who remember, this is the good old Bluff. That building right there was actually moved here. That was down by Sunken Meadow. I think it was moved here. I'm not sure the dates. We have pictures of it that are very interesting, of them actually floating it down the river on the barge. And then here is the new Bluff area. They put this area in here to help stop people from mistakenly driving into the water here. I'm sure sometimes people make mistakes and stuff happens, but it's really tough to drive into the water without having to go around many things. But it's good to be extra safe, and that's what they've done. And then right over here is the Bluff parking lot, and where we all know, are very familiar with. And then where, if you've ever been to high school in Kings Park, all the way down here is the Bluff parking lot, where we all hang out and used to hang out. Well, I don't know about used to, but and it is good because you come down here, you see old Kings Parkers, and you get to bullshit for a while and talk about old times and catch up on this, that, and the other thing. And people are generally the same, but the years does change people and help people to realize that the type of friends you make when you're a kid you can't make them now. I mean, people can be very important in your life, but kids' days seem as a kid to last forever. And during times, it's really good to be able to see those people. You never know who you're going to meet here at the Bluff. And so it's about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and people are going to start coming out. So I don't want to stay here too long with the dog. You know, he's a good boy, but, you know, it's a big, scary dog. And sometimes people, rightly so, are cautious of strange dogs. But there are some of the good guys fishing off the docks. I remember right here at this dock, I caught my first fish. It was an eel. It was an electric eel. My Uncle Vinny cooked it up. It was good. I mean, I didn't eat it, but it looked good. Anything with garlic smells good. And so I'm not sure. I think they're going for porgies. It's too early for snappers, and I have seen a lot of porgies being posted online. So I bet you that's what they're going for. But it's been a while. It's been decades since I fished off the beach here. So off the docks, the floating docks here. So I'm just not sure what's out right now. But also right across here, that was Gilligan's Island. But we also had, there were always boats moored in here. So I guess at some point in the past, they changed the policy and reduced the amount of permits that they issued. And perhaps when the hospital closed down, a few other things happened and things changed. But I think it is a lot more beautiful. Oh, there's a beautiful bird. But and it is, you look across the Gilligan's Island, it's beautiful there. And were the tents the best thing? No, I mean, no, it was not beautiful like this, but it was a lot of family recreation. But they had the piper, there were many reasons, but the one that I remember is they had piping plovers. I think that's what they called, and those are type of bird. They nest on the ground, and so the camping area wasn't their nesting area, and they want to promote the species, and I believe rightly so. It's a shame we don't camp there anymore, but it is beautiful. And they're also doing wonderful stuff down at Sunken Meadow, which I'm going to take a look at as well. They're sectioning off some parts of the beach for the piping plovers, and it looks like vegetation is also coming back. So that's pretty cool too. You know, there's a lot of opportunities here, and that's why I don't envy the job of our elected officials, because they have to find a balance between all of these things. And, you know, if Stevie had his old way, we'd all be riding our bicycles and eating kale and lychee beans for lunch, you know. But, you know, the people who's in charge have to manage all this, have to work out those decisions. And I think they do a pretty good job at meeting this balance here. So that's about it for today. I'm going to get back to walking and secure my best buddy here. Right, Marius? You about ready to head out? Okay. See you all later.